All right, welcome to the future. It's January 21st, 2026, and the new F1 era is, finally here.
It really is.
And we are kicking this season off with a deep dive into the very first car reveals. Specifically, Red Bull and their sister team, VCARB.
And it's important to say right off the bat, if you watch that big launch event in Detroit, you almost have to forget what you saw on stage.
Right, that shiny car under the lights, that was just a generic show car, a mock-up.
Exactly. The real secrets, the actual engineering details, were all hidden in the studio renders they released at the same time.
And before we get into the tech, we should probably touch on that whole Detroit surprise. I mean, the location itself was a huge statement.
Oh yeah, it was all about the Ford partnership.
And there's been so much noise from GM and Cadillac, basically saying Ford is just a marketing sticker on the car.
Well, Ford executives clearly didn't like that. Bill Ford called those comments, I think the quote was patently absurd.
And looking at the details, he kind of has a point. This isn't just branding.
Not at all. Ford is bringing some serious tech, especially with industrial 3D printing. In the past, casting an engine block took weeks.
With traditional molds, yeah.
Now they can 3D print them. It speeds up development in a way that is just, well, it's a massive weapon to have when you're a new engine builder.
Speaking of that engine, let's look at the actual RB22 renders. What are the big takeaways?
The first thing you notice visually is the suspension. Red Bull has almost always favored a pull rod front suspension for aero reasons.
Right.
But these renders clearly show a push rod setup, and that suggests they needed to move all the internal mechanics higher up in the chassis.
To clear out space underneath,
Huh?
for airflow to the floor.
That's the theory, sacrificing a bit of mechanical purity for a much bigger aerodynamic gain.
Okay, but the most controversial thing isn't something you can see, is it? It's inside the engine.
Yeah. We need to talk about the compression ratio loophole.
The 16-to-1 rule.
Exactly. The rules strictly limit the engines to a 16-to-1 compression ratio. But the key is that the FIA measures this statically.
When the engine is cold.
Right. When the engine is cold and sitting in the garage, Red Bull's powertrains director, Ben Hodkinson, basically admitted they took this to the very limit.
So what are they doing?
It's all about thermal expansion. As the engine heats up to race temperatures, the metal piston and the chamber walls, they physically expand.
And that squeezes the space.
It squeezes the combustion space, driving the compression ratio up from a legal 16-to-1 to an effective, maybe 18-to-1 during the race. They are using physics to get free horsepower.
That is just incredibly high-stakes engineering.
Brilliant, but so risky. If you miscalculate that expansion by a tiny fraction, the engine grenades itself.
So let's shift over to the sister team, VCARB. You'd think they would just copy the Red Bull concept, but they really haven't.
No, it's a completely different philosophy. It kind of proves that 2026 isn't going to be a spec series, which is great to see.
So what's different on the VCARB 03?
Well, the nose is much boxier, which is probably to help it pass crash tests more easily. But the big divergence is the front wing and the cooling. On the front wing, VCAR is using two actuators to move the flaps. Red Bull uses one. The extra weight lets them move both flaps as a solid piece, which keeps the airflow cleaner.
And the cooling. Those inlets on the side pods look huge.
They are massive, and it seems to connect to this new idea of charge burning.
Explain that.
Okay, so the combustion engines are down on power, and there are no front motors to harvest energy under braking.
Right.
So to recharge the battery, teams might literally have to burn fuel just to spin the generator. It's horribly inefficient and creates a ton of waste heat. VCRB seems to be betting they'll need that massive cooling.
Wow. And you said there was one more trick.
Oh, my favorite detail, the floorboard. The rules say you can have 3 fences or elements under the car. VCRB has 7.
How is that legal?
They connected them all. Just with these tiny little bridges, because they are all physically linked, they technically count as one complex part, not 7 individual ones.
It's a total manipulation of the rulebook.
A beautiful one.
So we have engine loopholes based on metal expansion on one car and floorboard geometry tricks on the other. It's clear the engineering war is already on.
For sure, before a single wheel has turned.
But here's a thought to leave you with. Red Bull is relying on that thermal expansion to be legal. They're compliant when the engine is measured cold. What happens if the FIA decides to change the procedure mid-season? What if they start measuring the engines while they're hot?
That whole advantage could just vanish overnight.
Something to watch as the lights go out. Thanks for listening to this deep dive.